from eating Satan's blood hot sauce and some absurdly spicy hot wings on Friday, while actually still drafting a pretty good fantasy football team. I think I got my dogs calmed down. They've been absolutely losing their shit for the last 15 minutes or so. They know when a stream is starting. But that means it's DraftKings time. I'm really excited to get into a DraftKings draft. People are not doing enough talk about DraftKings, despite the fact that they have millions and millions of dollars in tournaments, the widest range of styles of tournaments, payout structures, all that fun stuff. And we're going to get into that, a little bit of strategy, look at my portfolio, and then, of course, we're going to hop into a $5 Millie Maker draft on DraftKings. Hello. Six, I hate to tell you, if you're here for the hot wings, you're in trouble. I'm not sure I'm ever going to be able to eat a hot wing again in my entire life. That was miserable. It was my niece's third birthday. It was last week, but we got together, like the bigger family get together was on Saturday, and they put up the stream of Rob and I eating mainly just the end when we got to the really hot stuff up on the TV for everybody. Had my niece's birthday party, and it was a little embarrassing. It was a little embarrassing. Yeah, definitely garlic parm wings, very mild wing, because I really do like chicken wings, to be clear. Not those breaded, boneless chicken nuggets that Rob was eating. But I do really like chicken wings. It's one of my favorites. But I don't know that I kept all the hot sauces, but I don't know how they're ever going to get put to use. Again, an entire bottle of that Satan's blood. I mean, it's $20 or whatever. It was one of the bigger wastes of $20 I've ever had. Yeah, it didn't totally ruin wings for me, but it does have me kind of second guessing when you think about it, like your general, like normally, like I said, I really like chicken wings. I would be like excited at all times, like for chicken wings, probably one of my felt relatively up there, like in a casual bar food type of setting. It's up there in one of my favorites. I think it just has me a little bit mind fucked about like what a chicken wing even really is anymore, because I can remember those, mainly the last two. The first few really wasn't that bad, but the last one was like, that wrecked me. It absolutely wrecked me. This is a good idea. Andrew says re-gift the sauces. That is a good idea. I'm not even going to entertain this comment, but anyway, enough about the wings. If you're showing up to this, you're like, I'm here to draft the DraftKings Best Ball team. What the fuck is this idiot talking about with hot wings on Friday? About every Friday, or mixing in throughout the off season, instead of just doing draft streams, myself and Rob King Coakley, who is there in the chat, are going to be doing Draft Club with a twist, we call it, where we're going to do kind of some silly things while we draft a best ball team. And on Friday, we did if you've ever seen the show on YouTube called Hot Ones, where as they do an interview, they progressively eat hotter hot wings. They actually do 10. And we progressively ate hotter hot wings as we drafted a best ball team, culminating in this one, which was called Satan's Blood. It is 800,000 Scoville. It's not even a hot sauce. I learned a lot about hot sauce in the last 4 or 5 days. It's not even a hot sauce. It's actually just technically a pepper extract. So it's basically just like straight ridiculously horrible spice that we put into our mouth. It was really bad, like really bad. And so, yeah, that happened on Friday. So that's why we're talking about this nonsense before we get into the DraftKings draft. But we are here to do DraftKings. If you also missed it last Thursday, I did our strategy show, the Best Ball Theory show on Thursdays, was about DraftKings NFL Best Ball strategy for DraftKings. And I do think a lot of people, the crazy thing about DraftKings is that, and I talked about this on the Thursday show, is that it's probably like, for volume, like number of users and probably number of drafts that get done this year. Obviously Underdog is having a lot with their puppies and stuff like that. But with this $5 Millie Maker being almost 1 million entrants, there's going to be more people and more drafts done on DraftKings than any other platform, give or take. But nobody ever talks about it over the entire offseason because, they just bolted on their best ball product onto their DFS app. There's not even like a draft board when you draft. It's a little bit of a clunky experience, obviously. However, it's the softest market. I really prefer the scoring format, and maybe more importantly, they have a really, really wide variety of tournaments to choose from, which is like maybe the most important thing. So we're going to draft today in their $5 tournament, which is their Millionaire Maker, which is the craziest one. Definitely has the wildest kind of playoffs and week 17 and strategy around trying to take that thing down. But they also have multiple single entries. They have a little bit, a $20 and a $25, I believe, MME mass multi-entry tournaments that you can enter up to 150 times that have much more reasonable final rounds and advanced structures. They have high stakes if you would like to play in their $555 tournament is really nice if you would like to bump up stakes a little bit. And they even have a really small field $2,000 tournament. They have last year they launched multiple $100 single entries and multiple $200 single entries. They'll have like $12 single entries. There's just everything that you could really want from a contest selection perspective at DraftKings. And so it's important for us to do some of this content, I think, even though people talk about hating drafting on the app. The first thing I'm going to do, if you want to like kind of hear a little bit more about some of that specific strategy for DraftKings, that was covered on Thursday. I am going to refresh this because I did send my latest teams to Draft IQ. I'm not sure if they're in here yet. If they're not, that is okay. But this is my Draft IQ for the only tournaments I've drafted in actually so far on DraftKings are, as you see here, this Millie Maker. Good Lord. Do you see this? They're chasing each other around the house. My wife is out for a walk, and my dogs are literally running around the entire house. So the only tournament I have drafted in so far is, again, this $5 Millie Maker that they have. I'm kind of honestly trying to pump in most of my volume there right now in kind of this like dead time period in the off season. And then, I'm going to come back. I'm going to hit those single entries. I'm going to hit maybe some of the $500. I'm going to hit whatever kind of new contests open up. I'm going to hit the $20, etc. But I'm kind of trying to like shoot for first and play and I guess really just hope that the chaos of the offseason plays out in my way in that crazy top heavy, right? Like draft a bunch of 0 RB teams and pray that you get lucky with one of the cheap running backs or whatever that you draft. But I was just going to run through super, super quickly kind of my exposures and my general thought process so you can see where I'm at before we hop into this this tournament. Boots says real quick before we dive in, do you think contest selection doesn't get mentioned enough in the best ball sphere, specifically thinking a lot of the tournaments are too big to realize your edge? I don't know about too big to realize your edge necessarily, but definitely too big to realize like, first place equity, and not too big, but like obviously it's going to be difficult to realize that edge. You need several years, you need a lot of years, just like in DFS, you need a lot of slates. So that's definitely true. I still think those big contests are very important for the ecosystem. Maybe the most important thing for the ecosystem. However, the contest selection aspect of what you said is 100% true. No one ever talks about it. People just fire off takes. And including myself, I'm certainly guilty of all these typical things as well. But the space is still so new, and a lot of the people didn't come from DFS or didn't even come from poker or whatever, or didn't come from sports betting, didn't come from kind of the it didn't come from any other games of strategy. Somebody replied to me on a tweet the other day that he came from like Magic the Gathering or whatever, and like his thinking about game strategy was really fascinating to hear from some. But like coming from those areas, you think about a lot of these different things that the typical fantasy football player doesn't think about. And so to the average player and most of the content, a pick is a pick. A player I want to draft is a player I want to draft. A structure I want to draft is a structure I want to draft. All that kind of like none of that stuff gets ever really talked about in best ball. But this is why we are writing. You see here, if you are a subscriber, obviously you would get access to this Draft IQ. But we have tournament playbooks over here where there's a playbook. I'm still in the process of continuing to write the playbook for literally every tournament that exists in best ball because of exactly what Boots said. Not only is contest selection, right, like where I'm going to invest my money important, but then how I'm going to attack those tournaments. It should be different. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I'm approaching this $5 tournament specifically differently than like what I will do in the $100 single entry or whatever. And so there's a lot of those nuances. That doesn't even begin to talk about how you should obviously draft on DraftKings differently than you should draft on Underdog. But people don't talk about that. You should draft differently, certainly differently on Drafters than you should draft on the other two sites. Scoring is different, format is different, all that kind of stuff on all these different sites. But that is not something that gets talked about enough versus like where the DFS space is so mature now that we do absolutely talk about that, right? It's like I'm playing this guy. I mean, people don't really play cash games anymore, but like I'm going to play this guy is a cash play, or this guy is just a 1% milli maker play, or this guy is a whatever. Well, that's like a normal discussion in DFS. No one ever that people just talk like fantasy. Like, what do you mean? This guy, you want this guy, you want to draft this guy a ton in the $5 milli maker, but you don't care as much in the puppy 2 or whatever. Like, is he a good pick or not? Like, tell me. And it's like, well, there's levels to this, and we're just in that beginning early stage. So I'm glad you brought that up really quickly. You see here my exposures. I spent a little too much time fucking around here before we got into it, but one of the most interesting things you see from the start is that I'm very, very, very underweight Jonathan Taylor on DraftKings. This Jamar Chase number is certainly not exactly where I want to be, but generally speaking, I am just kind of smashing the draft button on the receivers, pass catchers, and obviously Saquon Barkley here in the first round. You even see down to Debo. I don't have any Eckler. I actually don't have a ton of CD. Not much Najee. This 6% CMC is not necessarily planned, but just kind of how it's happened with my draft slot and all of that. Let's see here. You see a lot of like fairly big stands, right? I have not drafted Derrick Henry. I have not drafted Austin Eckler. I have not drafted Dalvin Cook. I drafted Joe Mixon one time. Just a lot of the receivers, a lot of the receivers early. I haven't drafted Mark Andrews, one Nick Chubb team, a little bit of James Conner, no Aaron Jones, not much Lenny, not much Kamara, right? Got Swift, Pitts, And then you get on down to, here's the first stand, right? I'm taking a stand on the Cardinals stack, essentially. That's one of my big Cardinals. Gabe Davis is a big stand for me. And then obviously you see Kyler here, right? So like 54% Hollywood, 36% Kyler. I'm taking a big stand on the Cardinals. I think that their price is terrible. And in this specific tournament, and with the way you have to the way you have to navigate the playoffs and then get to 1,000-person final round, I'm kind of it's a $5, it's a $5 tournament. I'm going to draft 150 teams. So for not even $1,000, I can basically like make one bet. As you see here, it's largely betting on the receivers early and betting on a couple of different games, a couple of different scenarios. And I'm making that stand in this specific tournament. I, of course, like Kyler and Hollywood. They are, I updated the core picks article today. They are core picks for Spike Week subscribers, but I'm not going 50% or whatever Hollywood and 40% Kyler in other tournaments. They're priorities, but I'm not taking that hard of a stand. But in this specific tournament, I am, because of the kind of crazy, huge, massive field. I'm taking one stand for $700, or for whatever. Let's say I spend $750, and just for round numbers, I were to get 50% of that stack, which I'm not going to, obviously. But let's say I just get 50%. So let's just call it $300 or whatever. For $300, I can invest in this one thing, and then I'm kind of diversified around it, right? Or I invest in these couple of things. Let's go to the exposure tab and wrap this up real quick. Alex says one of my favorite stands, or one of my stands in this tournament, is fading JT. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just taking Cup and Jefferson is much higher even than Cup, but I'm taking Jefferson, Cup. Chase would be 5th overall. Kelsey is 6th overall. Diggs is 7th overall. I think Devontae is 8th overall, right? So like you just see, I just end up with those guys. I end up with all the wide receivers. I do have Swift and Saquon as early running backs, with Javonte as early running backs that I'm targeting, but not going super, super crazy with, although I was drafting Saquon a ton earlier. Now he's risen. Anyway, you see here, right? The Hollywood stand is a big one. Lance, Mooney is actually one interesting caveat that I'm not like, I'm into Darnell Mooney, generally speaking, across best ball, but not like going absolutely nuts. But his cost is a little depressed here on DraftKings, and the Bears are specifically, both the Bears and the Lions in that Week 17 game. I like both of those teams, period, for DraftKings. I like them for best ball in general, but I really like them in the DraftKings scoring format. You can go back and watch the Thursday show again if you want to get some subtle nuances to why some things matter a little bit more in the DraftKings scoring format. But the Bears are actually a team that I am targeting. So you see, Justin Fields as one of my kind of 3 quarterbacks, right? Trey Lance, Kyler Murray, Justin Fields as like quarterback stands. So then in turn, you get Hollywood, you get Darnell Mooney, you got a decent amount of Debo, a decent amount of Ayuk, wherever these guys are at here. Let me see. Let me just search. Debo, yeah, so 19% Debo, only 8% Kittle, and 18% Ayuk, right? So it's a little more spread out with the 49ers, but with the Cardinals, it's a lot of, and the Bears, it's a lot of Mooney, Hollywood. So I'm taking like just a few pretty concentrated bets there, and then kind of, you see a lot of the same running backs being drafted: Chris Evans, Kenny Gainwell, Tyrion Davis-Price, D'Ernest Johnson, Pollard, whatever, because it's a lot of 0 running back teams and hero running back teams. However, you see that it's a concentrated bet on just a couple of different things, and then it's kind of whatever fits in around there. And in this specific tournament, I'm really, really, really heavily trying to focus on that. You see Week 17 over here. I'm obviously very heavy into Week 17. Obviously, Denver, KC, and Arizona, Atlanta, and Chicago, Detroit are my highest exposure ones. But I mean, I have all of them, right? Actually, very not much of a couple of these. I would have thought there would be more Jets and Seattle, but I guess I just don't have a lot of Seattle is is the problem. But I mean, tons of all these week 17 correlations, right? We have week 16 correlations, lots of elite quarterback and elite tight end teams, and hero and zero RB teams. It's kind of like the general thing I'm trying to do in this tournament, with a bet on a couple of different stacks. And then like in the $200 single entry, like if I don't get Kyler and Hollywood, like it's okay. This is my bet for this one tournament, and we're going to live with that for, $300 or $400 or whatever. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm trying to beat 875,000 other teams or whatever. So I'm going to take a couple of stands, and if those fail, I have my underdog teams, I have my drafters teams, and I have all my other teams on DraftKings. All right. Perfect timing. Six just said he was I talked for 20 minutes. I wasn't planning to talk for 20 minutes. So that's probably why. We are going to get into this $5 DraftKings tournament. If you're watching and you want to get in, obviously we're hopping into a fast draft. It just filled. Ha! Sorry, guys. If you were wanting to get in, I apologize. It's filled. And we have, God damn it, the eighth overall pick. Let's zoom in. 8th overall. I almost just hit deposit. I think I have to refresh because it's get rid of this. How do I? God damn it. Do something really quickly here. Hacker told me how to fix this, so you gotta bear with me for a second. I am on the clock in 6 picks. Just remove that. Yeah, it's still autofilling. There we go. Okay. Progress. Okay. Pick an 8th. That's a tip for anybody with the Draft Buddy. As you see over here, Draft Helper, have the browser extension. Hey, hush. Insane dogs. And we're going to get another Travis Kelce team. Dogs are absolutely losing their shit. Yeah, this is funny. Best Ball Monitor says I got Chase at 10 the other day. I got Chase at 8 the other day, and I was like elated. Like absolutely elated. That is one thing about DraftKings, right? You're going to get a little bit of some chaos. Absolutely. Can you do a real quick run through of each of the numbers on the helper? Like I said, again, if you are a subscriber to Spike Week and you download the Chrome extension is obviously, what gets you Draft IQ. That's how you can upload your teams to Draft IQ, which is what I was obviously looking at right before this. But then it also has this extension for this draft helper. And what I am going to pull up really quickly here is a screenshot that should hopefully better show it to you than me just pointing it out on the screen. Maybe not. Anyway, let's look at Joe Mixon here. So we have his week 16 opponent first. So he goes at New England in week 16 and then at home against Buffalo in week 17. 1% and 1% at the bottom here are my exposures to him overall, and then in this specific contest on DraftKings. So my exposure to him on DraftKings period, my exposure to him in this DraftKings tournament. And then 17, 17. I already forgot what those mean because I've been drafting on Underdog with the overlay. 1 second, I'm trying to pull it up. It is, and I'm on the clock. So give me 1 second. I obviously should have been more prepared. I'm gonna take Saquon here. It is ADP. So the first one is, so you see Aaron, let's go to Debo. 17 is my average ADP for Debo in this tournament. And then my average ADP 17 here for Debo across all of DraftKings. So it's kind of the exact same thing. You get your exposure as well as your ADP on this specific player. So you can always kind of see like, okay, you see my ADP, not that it matters for Debo specifically, but my Debo ADP across the DraftKings is 17 and his ADP is 18.6. So I'm not getting like crazy value. That will obviously matter a little bit later. And you can see my exposure here in real time, right? I have 5% Fournette, 1% Nick Chubb. My exposures obviously are going to always be the same, 5% for every player, because this is the only tournament I've drafted in. But if you've drafted across multiple different tournaments, that will fluctuate, right? I have 5% of Lenny in this tournament, but I might have 10% elsewhere. So that will come together to create a different number for Lenny across all of DraftKings. Yeah, GA says fading Aaron Jones. It's not like I don't really have necessarily a problem with Aaron Jones. It's just kind of something that has happened. Down on the Packers, generally speaking. I understand people are giving the Devontae Adams volume to these other guys, particularly Jones, and excited about that. I'm a little bit more on the side of you just removed maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL from this offense and replaced him with no one. You replace him with Sammy Watkins. And I think that the offense could just be a lot worse. And so that's where I wish. See, this is the situation where you get in when you take a lot of Kelsey, is I really want to take Pitts. And I don't really want to take both. And so I'm going to take DJ Moore. I actually don't have a ton of DJ Moore here. Here you do see, though, you see Mahomes lighting up green. This is kind of one of my favorite. I love all the different stuff about the overlay, but one of my favorites is just when you get a correlation pop up, you see really quickly it jumps out on your screen like, hey, you have a Chiefs stack. You have the potential to stack the Chiefs here. So Mahomes is waiting for you, and then you see Juju here, right? And then you also see more green light up, like you see Jerry Jeudy here. You see the at KC portion light up. So I see in week 17, he correlates with someone on my team. Okay, I am up in 3 picks. And then the same thing, you see like for Amon-Ra St. Brown, you see at Carolina in 16, that lights up in green, and because I have DJ Moore. So I just every week 16 and week 17 correlation that could possibly happen, it's going to tell you as you're like in real time as you're drafting, as well as obviously the Juju correlation with having Travis Kelce. And we are on deck here. Should I take another Hollywood? Should I take another Hollywood share? Yeah, might as well. So we've started Travis Kelce out of the 108, and then we hit Saquon in the second round, DJ Moore, and Hollywood Brown, just to add another Hollywood team. Definitely going to be overweight Hollywood. Houston, yes. Houston says, I know that this is a DK stream, but as a drafters only drafter, do you have any tools for that site? Yes. Draft IQ and this Draft Buddy that you're seeing here work for drafters. What we did for the drafters overlay is obviously a little bit different because I'll just run it down really fast while we're in between picks. Obviously, the week 17 and week 16 and stuff like that doesn't matter as much, but we do highlight bye weeks. So if let's say you draft a quarterback with a bye week 9, any quarterbacks with the bye week 9 will highlight in red their bye week moving forward throughout that draft, right? So if I draft, let's just look at quarterback here on the screen. If I draft Russ, then Dak here, you would see on your screen, this would be red. This number 9 here would be red on drafters, as well as all the same ADP stuff and the same exposure stuff shows on drafters. But then, something a little bit different is showing you how many correlations you have between different players all throughout the season. So we call them game stacks. But like if I draft what we think about week 17 or we see week 16 on this view here on drafters, that specific week doesn't matter, but you can see how many times you have games stacked up throughout the course of the season. So like how many times do I have if Travis Kelce plays, how many of my players that are also on my team, like how many correlations throughout the course of the year, right? Do I have Travis Kelce and Devontae Adams? I'm going to use the interdivision ones because they're the easiest, right? I have Travis Kelce and Devontae Adams. I have Travis Kelce and Hunter Renfrow and Jerry Jeudy and Mike Williams and Josh Palmer, right? And all those different things, so those are all little different game stacks that I have built in. And so we definitely built in some cool stuff for drafters, plus obviously rankings, strategy, playbooks, and all that stuff for drafters as well. All right, back on the clock, and look at that. Actually, I should go to all, but I'm taking Kyler. Just keep on loading up. So we went Kyler in the 5th round. Travis Kelce, Saquon Barkley, DJ Moore, Hollywood Brown, Kyler Murray for the old Kyler Hollywood stack that I have about 30 of so far. Let's see. Lundar says only percentage that matters with Lenny is body fat. I am curious of what Lenny's body fat is right now, if he's 260 pounds, as they mentioned on Twitter today. That's a big old boy. 260 pounds. He got paid, and my man was just eating Girl Scout cookies all off season. And then they show him to offset it, to offset the negative comments about Lenny. There's him power cleaning 325 or whatever, which is impressive, but it's like he could still be fat and out of shape and be able to power clean a lot of weight. Like that's kind of not the point. But I love this part of the off season. It's chaos and nonsense, just total nonsense. One thing I also love about having the draft buddy is like there's things I didn't realize, like DK Metcalf. I actually did know that Seattle played KC because I know that the KC playoff schedule is just the absolute nuts. But we might go with the old let's buy J.K. Dobbins after he told everybody today that he's going to be back for week 1, right? I assume everybody saw that rap sheet. Ian Rappaport tweeted that or talked about that, there's Dobbins concerns basically with his recovery, and he had sources, and then J.K. Dobbins quote tweeted him and said, if you want sources, come to me. Basically, this is bullshit. I'm going to be ready. My recovery is going amazing. So I'm not like still like crazy big on J.K. Dobbins, but I've been mixing him in, and I do feel like now is probably a good time if you like. The price really can't get any cheaper, and if you want to mix in some J.K. Dobbins, I think I would probably do it now before we start getting a good bit of hype, right? I really do. Maybe we can go to the pick history and look at it this way. I know it's not a board, but is anybody in here? Are anybody in the chat? Are you in this draft? I don't recognize these names quite like I recognize the Underdog names. Let's see here. Oh God. Literally the page just shut down. So that's fun. I love DraftKings, baby. I think this stupid email issue to go away. We're back. We are back. You wonder why people don't stream more DraftKings drafts. Would be really excited for a couple of different receivers here. Damn it. They're both going to go, aren't they? Nope. Okay. We will take Devonta Smith. I was pretty much just hoping for either Elijah Moore or Devonta Smith there. Kind of a pretty big tier break for me with those. I believe Devonta is the end of like my fourth wide receiver tier or something like that. And so love being able to hit that young, high upside second year wide receiver right at the end of a tier, particularly when you started with, not a wide receiver heavy build, right? Elite quarterback, elite tight end, and two running backs, to be able to still get that Devonta Smith or Elijah Moore or whoever, Amon-Ra, that kind of guy in that tier is pretty nice. This is where things get just awful, though. You know what I mean? Like, truly, there's a couple guys I like here. Obviously, you get into this just gross range of the draft. It's something I think I'm going to do the Thursday show about, like, just the entire draft environment that is now in 2022, right? The nuances of the top five, the nuances of, yes, as everyone probably guessed, we are bringing back our Kyler and Hollywood team with Drake London. Excuse me. As David says, London bring back season. He spotted it from a mile away. I wasn't going to say anything because that's how you get sniped. You also see DeAndre Hopkins here, obviously in green, because he correlates with my Kyler team. But I'm still kind of trying to keep pushing Nuke down. I do want to, especially in this $5, and I don't think I've done it enough, want to get some of these guys that people are worried about injury wise and stuff. I understand it's burning some teams probably with the Godwins, Hopkins. Obviously, he's not injury, he's suspension, but Hopkins, etc. Not as much Michael Thomas, but that type of a player, because they're probably going to naturally be lower advance rate players, but they're priced down because of it. And if you can sneak them through, and on DraftKings, if you are a good drafter, theoretically, you would be able to sneak those teams through better than the average person. And so it's a little more so for Chris Godwin. I'm really trying to go after a little bit more Chris Godwin. But I think Hopkins fits the same. Yeah, I think I'm just trying to push Nuke a little bit more, Silas. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I think the most interesting part is, let me go to wide receiver. If once we get into like this grouping with MT and Robert Woods, I like Boyd fine, I like Claypool fine, I like Burks fine, but it's kind of like almost like after London, really is like there's kind of this tier where we get into, especially on a Kyler team, where you get into this group, and I'd be willing to dive into Hopkins, but kind of before that, there's a group of guys that I would just somebody said MVS, that they have a ton of MVS. Obviously, London fits. There's a group right there that I just would rather take them so far than Nuke, and I do think we might see him fall still a little bit more. Speaking of, what's quarterback looking like? Okay, don't care about quarterback. Speaking of falling, MT is falling. Who do I have? Oh, okay. We're gonna do Chase Claypool. See, the draft buddy is just fucking killer. Honestly, wasn't even really thinking about the fact that I have J.K. Dobbins, but when trying to decide between those wide receivers, and this is the perfect use case for this, and this is what I will scream until the cows come home about week 17, is I got into this group, and it's a tier of all the same guys. I'm actually not really on, obviously, as you see here, 0% Robert Woods. 0% Treylon is not intentional. I actually think that I need to push my last few teams to draft IQ because I don't have 0 anymore. But I've been, we'll get into Treylon. Week 17, when I'm in this tier where they're all the same, where all these guys were the same, I was looking at a wide receiver. I didn't care about quarterback, didn't really care about running back. I have Travis Kelce, so I'm not even looking at tight end. I'm looking at a wide receiver, and they're all in the same tier for me. From a DFS perspective, this analogy would be these guys are all in a very, very tight projection, right? Let's just say they all project for 10 points or from 9.6 points to 10.4 points or whatever. They all project so closely that then on teams in DFS that they correlate with your main stack or someone else in that lineup, they get a boost because that correlation creates a boosted projection, right? If you're building teams the right way in DFS, the same thing happens in best ball. You don't draft a guy from a much lower tier with a much lower projection. Looks like it's about to be sky season, I think here. I do really like Garrett Wilson. What am I on? I'm gonna do sky though. See, this is also the same thing, tier where I have Sky and Garrett Wilson pretty close. I have Travis Kelce, so let's just make this bet on the Chiefs and move on. But that's the thing with the week 17 is that it's the tiebreaker, and people think about it also wrong from a tiebreaker perspective. It's like if you had a projection or a ranking, and these players are all ranked right next to each other. Once you reach that spot, you don't just take the highest one because the ranking should move and your projections should move based on the correlation. It shouldn't be just like, oh, here's my rankings. My rankings are my rankings. Your rankings are based upon should change and move based upon the team that you have drafted. And so that's why the correlation thing starts to come in. With Treylon, as DPR says, zero Treylon. It was a little bit of a bet and a little bit of good luck, but I was basically out on him at his early price. And so I was full fading him at his early price, betting that he would fall. He has now fallen, and I am mixing him in. Like I said, I've drafted a few teams since I have updated my numbers here, and I've drafted him a couple of times. And so I am going to be drafting him now at this price. I do need to start looking at quarterback, running back. Let's see here. 6 wide receivers. I'm going to take Madison. Give me a little give me the outs to I would probably keep this either a 5 or a 6 running back team. You also find on DraftKings that you hit we're definitely not there yet, but you hit a tier in like 20 picks or so more, 20 to 25 picks or so more, where like I just have a crazy steep fall off at running back. And it's not quite the same at wide receiver. There's some late wide receivers, man, that it's insane that they go where they go. Yeah, they're crazy, man. Finally laying down. He's breathing so heavy right next to me. Finally laying down. But they bark at each other to try to they're playing, and they're barking at each other to try to get each other to like chase. They chase each other around the house. 75 pounds of 150 pounds of dog, full speed sprinting, literally all around the house, barking at each other. It's fucking anarchy. We went. It's hot as shit outside. We went for the longest walk ever. They were dying when we got back. It was so hot because I was trying to tire them out. But it's like the moment that a stream is coming, it's their lifeblood. It fires them up. They get their second wind once I sit down and put the AirPods in and everything. It's ridiculous. Okay. I am gonna. Now he's trying to smell my armpit. This dude right here. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Okay. I mean, I really don't like Kenneth Walker, but I am going to cue him because this is kind of crazy. Except I think I need to take Hines because for this specific team, I know we're not supposed to draft running backs on opposing teams, but Saquon and Nyheim Hines, I think, actually correlates incredibly well with the pass catching. And I talked about that again in the Discord the other day. Yesterday? I don't know. The days are blending together. But where people have talked about you can't draft like running backs opposing each other in terms of a week 17 correlation or a week 16 correlation or just any inter-game correlation. You don't want running back. And I agree, generally speaking. But that's at a super, like, over the total, like, sample of years, that's naturally going to work itself out that way. But there are micro examples from within that large sample that are on one end or the other end, right? Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, or Zeke and Derrick Henry, I guess, would be the great example from this year. I don't want those two on the same team from a week 17 correlation perspective. If you like them, you like them, and it's fine. But from a week 17 perspective, I don't want those two guys together on the same team because of the way that they score points. But when you're a pass catcher, particularly like these two that I just took with Saquon and Nyheim Hines, I think they need to be treated very differently. And there's actually scenarios, Lenny and CMC were actually one that was like, there are there are really clear paths to where, let's just say the Bucks just boat race and Lenny scores 3 touchdowns and CMC catches 12 balls, where they both are the top 2 running back scorers, right? Everything's about a scenario as opposed to just looking at this super macro level data. And we fall in love with the macro level data, but it's much more like, from an implementation perspective, it's much more about the micro, especially with pass catching and full PPR and bonuses and stuff like on DraftKings. It's very much so a lot different in the micro than it is in the macro. And it's important. Like I said, it's like crazy important to think about that. All right, let's see here. Ooh, this one's interesting. Really don't like this spot very much at all. So I'm just gonna take my guy, Daniel Jones. I don't really like taking the quarterback running back thing, but if Daniel Jones is crushing Kyler in week 17, then this team's probably not going to be winning the $1 million anyway. And so it's much more of, there is an important element to the season long angle of things. And I'm in on the Giants and I'm in on Daniel Jones. Put that on my tombstone at the end of the year. Yeah, I like Jameson. It wasn't an anti-Jameson thing. I very much like Jameson. Just Daniel Jones made a little more sense for me on this team specifically. Best Ball Moderate says, I have a ton of Mechie Nico with a Snoop Connor bring back. Yeah, you sound like Felix with the Nico Snoop Connor correlation. I get it though. Those two teams are a really fun correlation where it's like, again, you reach a point of the draft where and Nico's really risen, so it might be a different conversation now, but you reach a point where like, why is Mechie different than any other receiver I'm picking here? Why is Snoop or whatever any different than any other running back I'm picking in the 20th round? And so you also have like, they're in really ambiguous situations. These guys could absolutely just crush their ADP. I think it's Fant here or Thierry. How many running backs do I have again? I have 4 running backs already. I have 31% Davis Price. Let's do a little no fan. I'm trying to take a little bit more no fan. All right. I'm cool. I'm cool with this team. Yeah, did I bring this one up already? You said DraftKings is so different, and another reason. We'll talk about this plenty over the course of the offseason, but why we draft from the back to the front. And DraftKings, like I said, DraftKings is by far the shining example of why we need to draft from the back to the front, because you can't just pick your favorite. Sounds crazy. Can't just pick your favorite players in the first few rounds, assuming that you don't have them like so much further ahead than the rest of the players. You can't just like start and just like, I like this guy in round 1, I like this guy in round 2, I like this guy in round 3, because what you can get later in drafts, what is available at the back end of drafts for you, right? You can say, I want to be a robust running back bro, but like, this is obviously Hamler, has nothing to do with that. But like, if there's running backs available later that are just screaming values to you based on your rankings, projections, whatever strategy for that tournament, then like, they don't make sense for you if you're just smashing all the early running backs. On the flip side, if you're a 0 RB bro, like kind of I am, and there are all these wide receiver values that you love, high upside, rookies, and all that later, like, you mix in Saquon, and I do mix in Saquon, mix in Dobbins, mix in, right? You even saw I mix in some running backs that I probably don't even really love or that I don't really draft on, say, Underdog. This is perfect. Davis Price comes back to me. Now I can be done at running back, and we just load up on some wide receivers. That's fun. Adam asks, how do you get your exposure ownership on DK like that? That is the Spike Week, as you see here, Draft Helper. For Spike Week subscribers, you can get this overlay for Underdog, DraftKings, and Drafters, as well as Draft IQ and many more premium tools, ranking strategy, playbooks, all sorts of fun stuff. $25 a month. Not trying to just hype the subscription, but I do think it's really worth it, and that is where you would get that, Adam. Spikeweek.com/go-premium. Get you all set up, or you can just DM me in Discord or something like that if you want. Let's see. Best Ball Moderate says, hold on. Houston says, does the overlay automatically appear? Just purchase your product and added the extension. You have to upload your teams to Draft IQ, and then it will display this stuff. But if you have it downloaded, it should, like the Arizona and Carolina stuff should show. But go through the process of uploading your teams to Draft IQ, which is just a couple of clicks here from the contest. Go to contest and go to upcoming, and there'll be a button that says send lineups to Spike Week, and do that, and it'll appear. If you need help, go to the Discord and go to the channel tool support. I do think I need to update the Discord link. I can just share it probably here really quick. In case in case anybody needs that. But Best Ball Monitor says, okay, hold on. We are back on the clock. And it is funny. Oh, Gabe Davis said you should be smashing Isaiah McKenzie. I am currently smashing Isaiah McKenzie. I don't want to keep talking about him because I've mentioned it in the last couple of shows. But he's a guy I'm taking a ton of, especially on DraftKings right now. On all sites. But especially on DraftKings right now. Taking a lot of Isaiah McKenzie. He also fits what I'm doing here with this particular team. Love him. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, back to this. I get locked out of QB on DK a lot, so I have too much Jimmy G Lockett fan stacks. Yeah, that's really funny. Just needing the Jimmy G to Seattle thing. Getting the quarterback thing is a big one on DraftKings, where sometimes it gets really quarterback thirsty, right? Which is what you're referencing with getting locked out, and it's the hardest balancing act on DraftKings for sure. Is basically just quarterback. You know going in, if you drafted it all on DraftKings, that sometimes you'll run into this crazy quarterback thirst in a draft room, and like everybody goes well ahead of ADP. You know, guys are going in the first round. You know, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are going in the first round, and sometimes that just happens, and you have to think about, you know, I mentioned this on, I can't remember what Thursday show it was a long time ago, but it was we like sit back sometimes and we're like in this exact scenario where the draft room is terrible. They're all reaching on quarterbacks. We're like, oh, haha, these idiots all reaching on quarterbacks, taking quarterbacks in the first round. What a bunch of idiots. And then we get so locked out because we're being value hounds, right? And we're laughing at all the people reaching on quarterbacks. And then we have Jimmy G and Kenny Pickett and Marcus Mariota as our quarterbacks. And like, you're not winning $1 million. Like, it's over. I mean, technically, no. I guess technically you could win with that. But like, you didn't build a team that can win the tournament. All you did was build a team that like got to laugh at the other people, you know, drafting bad teams, but you also drafted a bad team. You know what I mean? Your team might be better than some of the teams in your league, but your team isn't better than 800,000 other people. You know what I mean? And so that's definitely like kind of I'm really happy that Wandale is still here. That's what I was hoping was going to happen. Obviously, I have Daniel Jones. You saw Wandale lighting up green there for a clear indication that he fit my stack. Now, you know, I can kind of do whatever I want here. This is definitely a 2 quarterback team with Kyler and Daniel Jones. It's definitely a 2 tight end team with Travis Kelce and Noah Fant. Saquon, Dobbins, Madison, Hines, and Tyrion Davis-Price is, you know, 5 or 6, generally speaking, for me at running back. Because definitely on DraftKings, one big thing that I think people screw up is, well, your flex spot is almost always going to be a wide receiver on DraftKings. Or you should treat it as a wide receiver position on DraftKings with full point PPR and the 100-yard bonuses. However, people also still are too rigid at the back end. Like, if the best pick for your team is a running back and he's your 6th or 7th, but you only wanted to draft 5, like, it doesn't matter. Don't be rigid to that. Like, don't be rigid to these silly definitions and these silly structures that we put out there. Adam says, I wonder if we've drafted together on Underdog or not. Is your name the same over there? Yes, sir. It is. Erik Beimfohr. Everywhere. On every DraftKings, FanDuel, Underdog, Drafters. Everywhere. Erik Beimfohr. See, I do think this is going to be Ace. Let me think about this now. We might just onslaught. I've drafted a shit ton of D'Ernest. And so I think I'm going to take Eno here. Just get Eno out of the way. Onslaught my Cardinals. Make my big bet on the Cardinals. And be done at running back. Just a bet on the Cardinals, a bet against James Conner, and really Darrell Williams. It's a pretty easy and straightforward bet. I did miss David saying platform agnostic question I've been marinating on for best ball tournaments. Is your EV impacted at all by having two quarterbacks from the same game, i.e. Lance and Carr? Does it matter? No, I don't believe your EV is impacted at all. If it is so minuscule. So there's two ways to look at it. One, I would not say that your EV is impacted. So let's get that out of the way. From an expected value perspective, no, I don't think that your EV is impacted. But there's both pros and cons to this. It's kind of one of those situations where like people want to bucket everything into expected value, and not everything works that way necessarily. But you are putting your how do I say this? You are putting your eggs in that one game basket, right? Which is, we're doing that a lot with the correlations. However, the problem is we're doing that with correlations at other positions because we can put both of them into our starting lineup, right? We're searching out the Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashad Penny situation. That's why we're doing these correlations, because we want the game script to play out. We're trying to unlock scenario-based upside with the Week 17 stuff, right? Jamar Chase and Darrell Williams, Amon-Ra and Rashad Penny, right? That's what we're trying to unlock with the correlations. With the quarterbacks, you can only play one of them. However, their ceilings are correlated. And so it's like from an EV perspective, you're not really changing anything, but you are consolidating your bet into that one little, scenario. Whereas you can do Lance and Kyler or whatever and still get the same upside. It's just that their ceilings aren't correlated at all, if that makes any sense at all. Let's see here. Antonio Brown. Who is he correlated with on my team? As you guys know, and we're going to take Zay Jones again. You guys know me. I should have taken Mechie last round. I'm an idiot. Really should have taken Mechie, but that's okay. I am trying to mix in some late round wide receivers that aren't getting drafted. Yeah, it is interesting with the shorthand for negative correlation. Exactly. Positively correlated at their like upside scenarios, but you can only play one of them, and so that is like negatively correlated to your lineup, right? Like if that makes sense. That's not like how I would actually phrase it, but you probably get the point. Got an email from drafters that their tournament is on pace for a massive overlay. Do you think DK will overlay? I actually don't think DK will overlay. Maybe one of these MME tournaments will end up overlaying. I haven't actually looked at how much they're filled right now, but the pace on this $5 is crazy. I thought like there was no way they'd fill a 900,000 entry draft best ball tournament, but I don't know. It's on pretty good pace right now. So maybe the what they just launched a $20 or a $25 tournament. Maybe one of those overlays, but maybe the 555. I don't know. But it doesn't really seem like we're on pace for any, like, at least like not significant overlay. Okay, so something I have been trying. I'm taking, especially when so the Patriots, I do want to talk about the Patriots very quickly. The Patriots are a team I'm really trying to bet on because they were top 10 offense last year, depending on whatever metric you look at, anywhere from like a top 5 offense to a top 10 offense last year. And they really only got better from a talent perspective. Now, the offensive coordinator thing is maybe an issue, but from on the talent side of things, they've really only gotten better. The problem is they have like so many bodies that they're the cheapest offense to draft. Collective ADP, they're the cheapest offense. Like, pick another shitty fucking offense. They all have players priced more. Like, what? Damian Harris and Ramondre are the most expensive Patriots at like pick 100 or whatever. But it's because they don't. There's like, we don't have no idea. They got 5 wide receivers. They got 2 tight ends, even. They got like 5 running backs, and Mac Jones doesn't run. So it's like a messy situation that we like drafters don't really know what to do. But that makes for an advantageous situation when we happen to stumble into the right one. Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Ramondre, whatever, whoever it is. Once we stumble into that, the winner of the Patriots production game is like a smash. And so I'm kind of trying to, like, I'm not saying I don't like to do this thing. People will say this, like, I want to leave every draft with a player from this team. I'm sure I've said it too, but like, I don't think we should ever really think about anything in that manner. But when I'm kind of defaulting at the back end here, I'm like, dude, there's a second round pick on the Patriots that runs a 4.240 that I can draft that is going undrafted on DraftKings. So I naturally have lower, a lower ownership on him. What if he's just like the starting outside wide receiver for the Patriots? Yeah, what if he's just awesome? I'm not projecting it. Nobody is. But like, this is a second round pick. We're taking Sky Moore way earlier. Why can't Tyquan just be the smash? And so I'm kind of like defaulting to him. I'll run down this team really fast, and then we can get the hell out of here. Really quick, actually. Adam says, what about only correlating the high upside plays in different games, if that makes sense? Yeah. I won't give away the whole thing, but in the playbook, if you sign up for Spike Week Premium, I have the playbook for this tournament, specifically the $5 Millie Maker, has been out for a little bit. And one of the things I talk about in there is kind of that idea where, and I also talked about this on the show last Thursday, the kind of DraftKings strategy show, where depending upon the contest you're playing on DraftKings, there are times where I just want to load up kind of on everybody from the Chiefs or whatever. And maybe everybody even from that game, Chiefs Broncos. I'm willing to draft a lot more because, in the $100 single entry, you have to make it out of your league, but then like 3 of 6 advance in the next round, and then like 3 of 8 advance in the next round. And then it's like a 10 team final or whatever. And like, I don't need a lot to win those. I'm not running up against a bunch of juggernauts. I'm not having to hit the stone cold nuts at any point throughout the season. In this, the $5 Millie Maker, not only do I need to have like a crazy high upside team just to navigate the playoffs, but then most importantly, in week 17, I really got to I need Amon-Ra and Penny to win. I need, obviously, Jamar Chase. I need those hyper specific things. And so those high upside mini correlations from games, right? DK Metcalf and Garrett Wilson, or Noah Fant and Elijah Moore, Breece Hall and Noah Fant. And I picked that game just because I just saw Noah Fant on my screen. But, Saquon Barkley and Michael Pittman, only the kind of higher upside guys from specific games, right? I know some people like Jarvis Landry. Shout out to both Jacob Sanderson and Ben Gretsch, who've been pumping the Jarvis Landry thing. But it's like, if Jarvis Landry is the dude that I need in week 17, like, so be it. I'm happy to lose. He's just not the guy that I think is ever going to win me a best ball tournament, even though he could even be like a positive win rate player. I don't think he's ever the guy that's going to win me a best ball tournament. And so it's like, I don't care about a Kenny Gainwell and Jarvis Landry correlation, because that's just not going to win me a best ball tournament, in my opinion. I'm not saying that opinion is right, but that's just my opinion on the matter. So, yes, I agree basically what you said. Anyway, we drafted another, add it to my list of Kyler Murray, Hollywood Brown teams, also with Drake London bringbacks, and also Travis Kelce, one of my highest. I think Travis Kelce is now officially my highest owned first round pick. I think this draft, he surpassed Justin Jefferson. probably up to like 28% Travis Kelce and 25% Justin Jefferson. But so we start with Travis Kelce, then we go Saquon Barkley in the second round, DJ Moore in the third, or excuse me, Hollywood Brown in the third round, DJ Moore in the third round, Hollywood Brown in the fourth round, and then stacked Hollywood with Kyler in the fifth. Hit the falling J.K. Dobbins, the owner of Ian Rappaport's soul on Twitter, J.K. Dobbins, Devonta Smith at an awesome tier break pick. Those are my favorite ones. Those are absolutely my favorite picks. Drake London, Chase Claypool, Sky Moore, Alexander Madison, Naheem Hines, then came back and finished out quarterback and tight end with Daniel Jones and Noah Fant, Tyrion Davis-Price, Isaiah McKenzie, Wan'Dale Robinson, Eno Benjamin, Zay Jones, and Tyquan Thornton for a little 2, 6, 10, 2. So clean, such a beautiful structure when you get that 2, 6, 10, 2. If you want the draft buddy, the draft helper that you saw there on your screen, again, go to spikeweek.com/go-premium, and you can get access to that. That extension will get you Draft IQ. That subscription will get you, we have overall rankings and positional tiers for all three of the main best ball sites, playbooks for all these tournaments. I'm trying to crank those out as fast as I can. All sorts of good stuff. I know some people were asking about that, so I wanted to just reiterate that really quickly. Tomorrow, I will be back. I am going to be joining Rob, even though he wants to, he's trying to buy a taser to tase me now. We've gotten out of hand. We went from hot dogs to hot sauce, and now we're talking about getting tased during a best ball draft, which I don't even know. He didn't even bring this one up. He just tweeted this one. Apparently, that's the next idea for a draft club. But Tuesdays are the Spike Week football show where we talk all things NFL all year round, not just during draft season. And I think we're going to talk some of the kind of most polarizing players in the league tomorrow. And I will be joining him. And then obviously Best Ball Bros on Wednesday. Going to talk strategy on Thursday and back for another draft on Friday. Carlos, I agree. It's definitely we are getting into the danger zone of best ball drafts. Apparently, we are getting too bored at this point in the offseason. But we're about to hit peak drafting season, so things are starting to get fun. I will see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy any drafts you do the rest of the evening, and make sure that you go get into the Discord. I think I need to I put the link in the chat. I think I need to update the link on the website. I think it is expired, but go get into the Discord. It'll help you with the tools, and obviously there's strategy conversation going around the clock. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.